Well, good evening. I'm Jared Wilson. This is the Resilient Living podcast. I'm joined by my friend and co-host Ryan Steva.
Hey, everybody.
Alrighty, so this week we'll be talking about self-regulation and accepting feedback, which I think is a very good principle to learn more about. But before we go on, I have a product.
Well, we wait for people to
While
roll
people
in
are
here,
joining in.
actually. Yep,
All right.
exactly.
So one of the products that I sell and I'm rather passionate about is medical. If you know me, you know my background is in the medical industry. So medical stuff, really important to me. And one of the products that I sell are, I'm going to get it in frame. There we go. Medical kits, adventure medical kits. I like this company. They did a really good job of laying out everything in an organized fashion. They print it on the back. So if you're in an emergency, you don't want to have to think about it. You can just look at it. It's like wound care, instruments, medications, bleeding, cuts and scrapes, fractures and sprains. It's all laid out there, and each compartment is numbered. It's a really good, solid little kit. It's not going to be like your trauma response. So like no tourniquets, no, bleeding chest wound kind of stuff. But I also sell that. It's an add-on, right? But yeah, get yourself a good solid med kit. This is, it's a little bit big, but it's really designed to be like in your vehicle so that you have it on hand, not really for like, your get home bag. I've got smaller ones for that. But yeah, good med kit, get yourself a good med kit. Doesn't have to be from me, but resilientliving.com. It's a thing.
Well, the cool thing with your med kit there is, you've already kind of, it's curated, right? You've taken the time to actually dig into it and understand what's in it, and you have the background to know what needs to be in it. So
yeah,
it like you said, it doesn't have to be from you, but if people want to know that something's already pre-vetted, that's kind of what your shop does.
Yeah, Adventure Medical is definitely a good one. There are definitely some better ones. They're much spendier. Anything North America Rescue is fantastic. But like I said, it's going to be considerably more expensive. But quality is great. And in an emergency, you really want to prioritize quality. So yeah, there you go.
Do you have experience with the Refuge medical kits?
I do, actually. Refuge is really good. That's a really cool Christian-owned operated company out of Arizona. I actually know some of the people that work there, and it's a good family-owned Christian business. Really like their stuff.
Yeah, I know several people who work there, and great people. So
yeah.
I do all kinds of other really cool stuff. They're connected with Caleb House as well, which is
a
trafficking rescue organization. So just doing really good stuff. So the little bit extra you might spend on one of their kits,
it's worth
is going to something good.
It's yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So Jared, what do you think of when you think of, in permaculture, applying self-regulation and accepting feedback?
So I was looking through your notes, and this I like it because no, I'm going to approach it more from the technical evaluation of a device and how it works. But I see the principles really, and we've talked about it in troubleshooting in our troubleshooting podcast. A lot of the same principles. It's systems that have an overabundance of something develop inherent issues, and so identifying what that overabundance is really important, and then what to do with it and how to utilize it for some other purpose, or how to mitigate it and get rid of it. Yeah.
Because, well, let's give a really easy example in kind of the permaculture space. Think of kudzu, right? You've got some kudzu on your property.
I do.
Right?
It was good for the cows. The cows took care of it really well.
Interestingly, kudzu in the right self-limiting systems can be an incredible. I'm not suggesting anybody go get it and plant it on their field, right?
Don't do that.
But they can be an incredible self-limiting system if you put in something that is a predator of kudzu, like cows.
Right. Yeah. I actually ate some because I found out it was edible. I was like, hey, well, if it's prolific and I can eat it, like, why not? It's not bad.
Yep.
It was spinachy.
You can make vodka out of it.
I've heard that they actually use the roots for all sorts of wonderful things. Like
Yeah,
they can actually you make noodles out of it. It
yeah,
takes quite a process to do it, but they're actually fairly sought after.
yeah. Well, and anybody who lives south of the Mason-Dixon line knows how invasive it can be if it's not self-limited, if there isn't
Right.
something designed into the system to balance it out.
Yeah. Like, nature intended or, God or whatever. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because in your field, it pretty much stays there because it's either getting, uh, mechanically grazed or, actually grazed.
Yep. Yeah. There's nothing else to combat it. It's got everything it needs. It's got sun. It's got water. It's happy. It thrives.
But it stops erosion. It
It does.
provides incredible protein to your animals. It helps them grow faster.
Hmm.
Um, so kudzu is just a great example of something that needs limitations built into the system to make sure it doesn't run amok. And you can see what it does when it doesn't have the limiting systems that need to be there for it.
Oh yeah,
So
you can driving down, going between Crossville and Cookville on 70. There's some areas that look like just absolute wild jungle because it's just a mass. The trees are just completely covered. It's
yeah.
wild.
And interestingly, kudzu will kind of if you basically let nature do its thing over a couple hundred years, kudzu will pretty much go away because the soil becomes better and it becomes less dominant in that space.
Sure.
But historically, we would have had even in our region, we would have had buffalo and elk
Yes.
and and then the appropriate predator pressure, we'd have wolves that are now gone to push those animals around.
Right.
So, though kudzu is not native, and that's part of the issue, had it been introduced in a truly historic setting without fences and things,
Yeah.
I don't think it would have ever become a major issue.
Probably true. Yeah.
Just what it integrated. So, that's what we're talking about as far as self-limiting, accepting feedback, seeing what's working, what's not, and making those little adjustments as as needed.
Definitely.
So, but kudzu again is a great example for kind of the first part of this that I want to talk about, which is limiting excess before systems collapse. And
Yep.
that's the inevitable outcome of a system that doesn't self-limit.
Yeah. If something that's unregulated, it will run away inevitably. That's whether it's an engine that's not being regulated by a throttle body, it's going to rev out until the whole drivetrain pops. Something's going to give, right? So yeah,
Right.
no, anything that's allowed to run amok is going to die.
Yeah, and the same for let's say water. If water isn't controlled,
Yeah.
you don't have a self-regulating system and overflow on a proper or secondary overflow on a pond, whatever, you're going to end up with erosion. Your pond's going to be down the hill along with the berm, right?
Well, yeah, that when I was going through your list, that was the one thing that like popped in my head is like why rivers have the shape that they do. It's that's
Mhm.
self-regulating. When you
Yep.
have high velocity because there's a steeper grade, you end up eroding the backside of a corner and it increases that curve, which slows down the water. So then you end up with this undulating river because it's self-regulating. It's
Mhm.
establishing its own path so that it can slow itself down so that it flows, controlled.
Right. And there's this we've talked about it before, but there's this great documentary on Yellowstone, and it's about the
Yes.
reintroduction of the wolves
It's
and
great.
how the river changed because of the reintroduction of the wolves,
Yep.
because these animals stopped basically hanging out at the river's edge and the prairie there, and they started getting moved around, and so the banks of the rivers started to grow foliage, and the rivers eventually kind of n hit their rhythm and are held in place now, so they undulate, they move properly, but what was happening was the erosion was going so far because of these imbalanced, predator and grazer, uh,
Mm,
numbers,
right.
and so these grazers were eroding the bank, and so the undulation where it would normally go, now it actually eats all the way through and connects the 2 sides of it,
You're right.
and then creates all kinds of other erosive issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then you're just going to increase your velocities, and that's going to cause other issues downstream. And yeah.
Yep. And
which
so
affects the fish population and the reeds that are naturally, dealing with all of the sediment in the water system. So yeah, some
yeah, well,
amphibians get messed with.
to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, um, you see so
Hopefully.
many people blaming the dying off of, reefs in the ocean to global warming,
Okay.
but go and look at the reefs that are dying off.
Yeah.
They're all basically somewhere where they're being affected by a large river.
Oh, okay. So
So
it's at a head, like where the river hits the ocean.
mhm, yep,
Interesting.
or where that water then flows to fairly quickly afterwards.
Okay.
And so when you get erosion, whether it's because they took all the wolves out of Yellowstone, killed off all the wolves from basically most of the US,
Yes.
or whatever they did, or started farming next to the river. I drove by a house today, I do fairly consistently, where I look at the house and I'm thinking that river is gonna take out that house eventually because it just
Oh,
they're farming right next to the
yep.
river and it just keeps eating back. Um,
Yeah.
but these reefs reefs are basically, I think there's 2 things that are happening. They're very susceptible to very small particles, basically clogging all
Oh,
the
sure.
various pores and connections and all that stuff. And so we're washing away our topsoil, or
And
beyond our
introducing
topsoil at this
microplastics
point.
and
Yeah, microplastics, everything else is washing into there. And then you also
sure.
have the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides all washing into these spaces.
Sure.
And so now you have a 300-mile wide dead zone in the Gulf
Yeah.
of, what is it now, America?
Yeah. Right.
um, but anyways, where these big reefs were used to be a place where there's this collision, or in another one of the other principles is value the edges.
Yeah.
And the edges, one of the edges in the ocean is where the rivers meet the ocean. And these reefs were that boundary. And basically, they're full of life because there's different ecosystems meeting each other there.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep. And now that we have huge amounts of topsoil and pesticides, fungicides, all that washing down into those spaces, giant algae blooms, all of the reefs around basically these estuaries are dying off.
Sure.
So that's my, hypothesis on the situation when you look at it. But I think it's important to understand that because of us removing the self-regulation that
Right.
God put there through natural systems, we're actually affecting things thousands of miles away from us,
Oh, yeah.
completely
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
unknowingly.
Well, we could take that same idea and principle and apply it to subsidies,
Mhm.
corn subsidies.
Yep.
How much of an impact people are creating an artificial, you know, balance that isn't a balance impacts everything.
Yeah, and it something that, um it was kind of a summation of, oh, what's his name? Something that Buckminster Fuller said. You could sum it up as saying, "Production forces feedback, whereas consumption hides it."
Ooh, yeah,
So when you have a consumptive system that's always, let's say, and I still bring in feed for my chickens.
sure,
I'm working
yeah,
towards as little feed as possible.
absolutely,
Uh,
but still,
that's consumption. And if I just kept bringing in feed because more and more of it was disappearing, and I didn't realize I was creating a rat issue
right, right,
where,
yeah, it's going elsewhere, but we're
yeah,
not observing that.
right. And maybe that feed I'm getting now, it's hard. So it's costing too much because I'm using too much. So I'm going to go with the cheaper feed. And
Yeah,
now I'm using this feed that is being sprayed down with all kinds of stuff I
pesticides,
don't want.
chemicals, and yeah,
And it's all being, subsidized by government grants to spray those, cornfields or whatever it
yep,
is.
oh yeah,
And so
but
my consumption hides all of those, you know, kind of intangible, more ethereal things that are disconnected from what I'm doing.
oh yeah, Oh, yeah.
Whereas when I start to produce something, if I had to produce all of my own feed for my chickens and know where it came from, I'd realize how inefficient that process is, or, so my producing something of real tangible output, um, it forces me to think about what the feedback loop is on that system.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So something that I found interesting, have you ever heard of Universe 25?
I was gonna ask about that. What's the Universe 25 experiment?
Okay. So Universe 25 was conducted, I believe, in the 60s and
Okay.
70s, kind of on the between 65 and 75, right in that realm.
Gotcha.
And it was this biologist who wanted to see what would happen if you gave essentially mammals, if you gave them everything they needed, including comforts, all the food they needed.
Oh, okay.
So he took an
The
initial,
utopian mecca.
yes, for
Okay.
mice. So he
Okay.
made this system that should easily accommodate 4,000 mice.
Wow.
And
Okay. Big.
he first dropped in 8 mice to start with.
Okay.
They were, 4 males, 4 females. They were like, they made sure there's no diseases or any issues with the animals, and then they kept them isolated so diseases couldn't creep in.
Okay.
At least infection-based diseases.
Sure.
So, they fed them the most real, um, whole diet that was well balanced, everything else, and populations, as expected, exploded,
Sure.
went kind of crazy.
Makes sense.
And initially, there was certain aggressive behaviors as their numbers were expanding,
Okay.
and the numbers kept climbing and climbing. And I put a video in the notes, so if somebody wants to see, like, here's the real story with some animations and things. But basically, these numbers started climbing so high, but they were still nowhere near what this system was supposed to be able to, what the capacity was.
Oh,
And what he found was, the longer this experiment went on, because there was no meaning, no purpose, no drive to do anything
sure.
specific, because everything was cared for,
Right.
these mice started to have all kinds of antisocial behavior.
Right.
So it's things like male mice who weren't interested in mating anymore, and they just sit
Okay.
and groom themselves all day. Um,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, asexual behavior. So, like, all kinds of just
There's no purpose.
oddities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was, either extreme gluttony for them getting overweight, or they
Sure.
just stop eating. Um,
Whoa.
weird
Sounds like
aggressive,
society. Hmm.
yeah, weird aggressive antisocial behavior. And so the numbers eventually peaked at little over 2,000 after a few years, and
It was designed for 4?
it was designed for 4,000 comfortably.
So it was half?
Yeah, as
Wow.
is just over half. And so other things that started to happen is, even though they had a fully properly balanced diet, they had everything they needed, even the mice that were still producing children, which was not very many, those pups, or yeah, they're pups, I think is what they're called,
Yeah, something like that.
were dying off in extremely high numbers.
Oh,
And then after, I think it was about 4 years of the experiment, the last mouse died.
the whole society collapsed.
The entire society completely and totally collapsed.
Wow.
And so I take that as being an example of, if you don't have some type of regulation built into it. Now, in that case, would the regulation be, I don't know, throwing a cat in the mix, or, something that basically creates this give and take, or a balance or a play between different things. And so,
Sure.
there's a lot of
I
discussion
mean,
of,
it's good that that man should work. I mean, there's gotta be some drive, some motive force within us to do, to achieve, to whether it's, mating, whether it's, you know, fitness, whether whatever it may be, there has to be some kind of drive. And if you've got everything provided for you, you remove the drive.
Exactly, and purpose disappears.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's even more detrimental to humans
Agreed.
when you don't have a purpose. But I guess all that to say that you've got this system that it looks great from a, kind of a consumptive
Right.
viewpoint, but you're not applying the appropriate limits. You're not, there's nothing holding back the number of mice that can be born. There's nothing
Sure.
that these mice have to do to avoid danger or think about anything.
Well, it's like
And
the what are they called? Biosphere things, where it's a totally sealed system. Um, that they grew these trees and the trees grew up and then all of a sudden they just fall over. And it was
oh,
because
interesting.
there was no wind. And so their
Yep.
roots never set deep and they never held on. And so they would grow up to a certain height and then their roots just were insufficient for their, how much weight there was up high and they just fall over.
Huh. So I'm growing out sweet potato slips in
Oh,
a
cool.
root cellar.
Oh, very
Right.
cool.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to multiply them before the
Yeah,
growing season next year. And they like they would get, so big and then they would start to just yellow and die off. And initially I was thinking, maybe it was a mineral deficiency or
okay.
the, synthetic lights we were using weren't going to work.
Hmm.
Um, and then I had this thought, I should put a fan in the root cellar.
Okay.
And a week later, I looked at it today. I was over there today and looked at it, and they're doing amazing. They're dark green, they're getting
Ha,
bigger, they're like everything's growing properly. And it's for that very reason. If you don't have something pushing against it, something
sure.
limiting its, those trees, their growth isn't being limited. And so they can't fulfill their proper purpose
Sure.
without that resistance.
Yeah. Well, and it's really easy to think um that stress is bad. It's
Mhm.
not. It's productive. It has a function.
Right.
I mean, weightlifting, you're stressing the muscles so that they adapt, they grow stronger and more resilient to those stresses. Stress is not a bad thing.
Right. Yeah, we certainly I think we live under stresses that we don't realize that we're putting on ourselves.
Agreed.
I'm sitting in front of a big screen talking to you with most of it white, which means I'm getting exposed to all kinds of blue light before I
Yeah,
go to bed
sure.
tonight. Um,
Blue light filtering
I'll
glasses up.
good call. Yeah. The, another thing that I think is really interesting that I noted, and maybe you came across, but was the concept of glyphosate.
I saw that you had that in there.
Yeah.
So I've heard the term. I'm not super familiar with the
So glyphosate is there's another compound 2,4-D. The combination of the two makes up what we know as Roundup.
Oh, got it.
Yep.
Okay.
And so most people think of them as being, something that will like kill the cells in a plant, right? But the way that it does it is by it's a growth hormone's not quite the right word, but it's something in that realm
Okay. Not
where
like a
it
chemical where it's, like, causing sterility or something like that.
yeah,
Okay.
well, these chemical compounds, glyphosate, 2,4-D, whatever, um, they accelerate the growth of the plant so fast that the plant cells explode and die.
They burn it from the inside out.
Mhm. Exactly.
Wow. That's
So,
diabolical. Wow. I had no
it
idea how that
is.
actually functioned.
Right. And interestingly, glyphosate is largely not working anymore, so they're moving back to higher rates
So the
of 2,4-D.
the plants have gotten used to it or what?
The weeds that grow that people were trying to get rid of with the glyphosate, and 2,4-D was the earlier known chemical,
Gotcha.
and 2,4-D is actually the one of the main active ingredients in Agent Orange.
I was just gonna say that. I was like, "That sounds like Agent Orange." That's
Mhm.
wild.
Yep. And so this is the stuff that we're being told, you have a weed problem, spray it on your field. Yeah.
Well, okay, from a physiological standpoint, we have very similar issues with MRSA, with C.
Mhm.
diff, where we've created, because of our use of antibiotics, we've created these resistant, bugs, bacteriums, infections, whatever, that they don't respond. They just like they're like, no, I've survived this before. I've mutated to the point where it doesn't bother me, and they're just going to and they absolutely are rampant when they hit a patient. It's nasty.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, and especially if your immune system is so degraded, and bring it back to glyphosate and 2,4-D, um, if you've killed off all the bacteria, the fungus, the balance that's supposed to be in your system, and
Right.
all you've got left is the bad guys who aren't helping you out, or you've got some imbalance, now MRSA can go crazy. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's all connected. Um,
Yeah, it always is.
but yep. So, we're still kinda riffing on, limit excess before systems collapse. One of the other notes I had was favoring certain things. So,
Mm,
favoring what you want, whether that's a plant, an animal,
sure.
a behavior.
Yeah.
Um,
If I
there's a
really liked mint, so I just planted mint everywhere, it's gonna end up wrecking everything. It's gonna just take over, and that's not productive for anything.
Yeah, it certainly could, or you could encourage, what it might encourage something that creates a imbalance somewhere else or some other way, or
Yep.
it might even be self-limiting. It really depends. So, yeah. And Charlie Munger had this quote that went, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome."
Right?
And that's what I think of when I think of, homesteading, permaculture. I want to incentivize the things that are important to me, but I also want to start with something that is close to competing with the other thing at least.
Okay, so
Right. So,
self-regulating?
yeah. And so I might pick an apple tree that by some other wild, apple tree might the wild apple tree might outgrow it, but the apple tree I'm planting is what I want. And then what I have to do is I have to favor it.
Mm, okay.
And what
So
you
you're
want to
building an
do,
ecosystem that is gonna promote the environment that's gonna thrive in.
yeah. And it might even be, once every couple of years going and cutting down the wild pears that are growing around it,
Sure.
or whatever it is. So, but you want to build systems where you don't have to work super hard to favor it, and then, and yes, plant ecosystems that support it. And so by us giving a little bit of input over time, we start to build a system that needs less input from us because it self regulates.
Right.
And, part of this principle too is self regulation for us, right? Because I need to regulate what I'm doing.
Mm,
And
sure.
um, just from a Christian standpoint, like a biblical standpoint,
Yeah.
what is the only type of control that's ever mentioned as being a good thing in scripture?
Self.
Yeah. Yeah, it's self-control.
Yep.
Every other every other variety is essentially considered, I mean, the way that I see it in scripture is it's actually it's I see it as being called, like, in scripture, I think that when you see control of anything other than yourself, it's essentially being called witchcraft.
Yeah, demonic. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, "No, no, don't." Yeah,
Yeah, don't do that. You don't
don't.
get to control that, that's not you. But you're called to and supposed to
Yes.
control your own behavior,
Yep.
control your own beliefs, etc. So,
Mhm. So, okay, so kind of jumping back a little bit. So we have these corporation-driven crops. Those really fly in the face of what we're talking about.
mhm,
You're creating an environment that is having to be continuously fed into because we have, 10,000 hectares of corn or soybeans or whatever. That's really what we're trying to fight against.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we go back to that quote, production forces feedback,
Mhm.
whereas consumption hides it. And that that corn of monocrop, it's being produced for consumption.
Yes.
But
Where
that
to the point where they have to create purposes for it just so
Mhm.
that they can continue it. So like that's where your subsidies come in where it's like, okay, we're going to use this and we're going to ferment it and create alcohols. So, and now what are we going to do with it? I don't know. Well, let's put it in gasoline, like, or
Yeah,
let's
put it in cars.
concentrate. Yeah. Right. And we'll cook all the, old cars out. Um,
Yeah.
I love my old
Problem
cars.
solved, right?
Yeah, getting rid of leaded gases and adding ethanol just killed a lot of vehicles. Where I lost my train of thought. Um, Corn based sugar. What's this stuff? Nasty,
Oh, yeah, corn syrup,
high
high
fructose corn syrup.
high fructose.
Eh, but like,
Mhm.
hey, we have all this extra corn now because, like, what are we going to do with it? Let's, it was used to fatten up pigs. Let's just give it to the American people,
Yeah. Well, and we were talking about glyphosate, 2,4-D.
right? Yeah, I
High
saw
fructose
Vic.
corn syrup is also, in my book, considered, high concentrate glyphosate, right? Because you're
Yes,
concentrating it down.
right. Oh
So,
gosh, and we're eating this stuff. We're feeding
right.
it to our children and our cereal.
Yeah,
Ugh.
wondering why we're having, mental issues and cognitive, emotional issues.
And physiological issues, diabetes and heart disease, and who knows what else. Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, it's because the incentive is wrong. And that goes back to the, favor the plants, animals behavior that you want.
right. Yeah, yeah. Vic, yeah. YouTuber used horse manure in their garden beans, grew up, and then suddenly died.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So for people's edification, 2,4-D won't do that.
By
There's
itself.
a yeah. So um, I got to explain an interesting little trick that's being played in the literature with 2,4-D and glyphosate.
Okay.
But let me step back first. Generally, it's Grazon that does that,
Okay.
which is a name brand. I forget what the molecule is called, but Grazon is a broadleaf herbicide, and it is made to be able to essentially pass through the animal. So it's supposed to be safe because it just passes through the animal instead of absorbing as much as some of these others.
Sure.
2,4-D and glyphosate, if you go and read their packages, will say things like they degrade after 48 hours in the soil. Now, what the trick that's being played there is the active ingredient that is causing the plant to grow so fast that it dies breaks down enough that it no longer does that after 48 hours in the soil.
Uh-huh. But
The
it's still
rest
there.
of the poisonous compounds that are killing off your soil microbiome and just destroying and decimating the land. Decimating is the wrong word, sorry. Just absolutely destroying your land.
Yeah.
All those compounds are still there. So,
Ah,
so they don't stop plant growth, but they destroy your soil. And they're also endocrine disruptors, even though they claim they're not, in the way they can claim that 2,4-D, which is basically Agent Orange, and glyphosate are not uh, endocrine disruptors, meaning things that can damage or degrade cells in the human body, is that under correct use, which is basically hazmat suit in a location with no wind, you
right.
know, no exposure whatsoever. Go take a shower afterwards and throw away your hazmat suit.
Yeah.
So that's how they can claim things like, oh, it degrades after 48 hours and it's
Sure.
totally safe for human use if you use it as directed.
Mhm.
And then they put it in helicopters and spray it over lakes during high wind periods, you know.
Right.
Um, so that's the legal verbal game that's being played with all that.
Sounds about right.
All right. So that's my tangent. Thanks, Rocky. Rocky Pines Homestead. um,
If you're not following
yeah,
him, go follow him.
yeah, you should.
While you're at it, go follow us too.
That's right. Find us everywhere.
Like,
Um,
follow, subscribe.
we talked about the idea of free energy,
Mhm.
like the thought experiment before,
Yeah.
and how I don't know if you agree with me, but my thought was what we'd probably do is use that to extract things faster and harder and do more damage
Yeah.
in the same direction we're already going.
Yep. We
Um,
just do more faster. Yeah. That sounds right.
exactly.
That's how humans
Until
work. We,
right.
we got internal combustion. We're like, oh, cool. Let's rip things up faster.
Yeah, exactly. Let's let's mine deeper. Um,
They
and
don't
not that
deep.
I'm entirely against mining. I mean,
Oh
there's
no,
times, I drive a vehicle, there's
there's
copper
purpose in
and
all of it.
iron and
Mhm.
aluminum in there. So, um, anyways,
But there's responsibilities that we have to take on whenever we endeavor anything, whether it's hunting and fishing, or if it's mining, or if it's just driving a car. There's responsibilities that we have to accept, and that's where I see the failure is
mhm,
we're all for the endeavor, but not taking the responsibility from it.
yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know if it was quite this extreme, but I think wild turkeys in the United States after the Great Depression, they were so rare that they had basically nobody saw them for a very long time.
Oh, yeah, I could
Yeah,
imagine that.
because
Like
I
there's dinner.
remember
So yeah,
right. I remember there being restrictions on hunting and things like that because there wasn't self-regulation put in place, and because with the Great Depression, our system had grown and ballooned so far beyond what it was capable of. If you look at the real economic numbers, understand how to properly adjust for inflation with M2
right.
numbers, things like that.
Yeah.
We didn't actually get back from 1929 until I believe like the mid 80s. Like we never actually hit the same high when you
No.
adjust for everything
Well,
until then.
yes, but well, yeah, if you just and that's just accounting for inflation. Okay, do we really
Right.
wanna go down this rabbit hole? Because I kinda wanna go down this rabbit hole. Once you
Let's
take
do it.
into once you take into account the increase of efficiency, it's been masking what inflation actually looks like for the
Mhm.
since the mid-70s, because our productivity and efficiency has gone through the roof, and because things have become functionally cheaper, even though the prices have incrementally increased, the prices have not incrementally increased nearly as much as they should have in that same time period with the given inflation rates. We're at the point now where it's starting to slow down. We're no longer able to increase our efficiency in the order of magnitude that we were. And so we're seeing these precipitous increases in costs because the efficiencies aren't increasing, but the costs, the inflation is. And so we're just now
Right.
catching up to where we should have been all along.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and then there's we've got massive deflation in technology.
Right. Yeah.
So, the TV that I'm using as my computer monitor it's 4K, it's 55-inch, and I think
Right.
I picked it up, on clearance for $150 or something.
Right. I was
This
so
TV
proud of
yeah,
my 50-inch plasma, back in the day. I paid like $1,000 for. It was like 720p. And yeah, you're right. Like
yeah.
I can pick one up for stupid cheap.
Well,
Stupid cheap.
I think we had the first color TV that we had was I think we inherited it from my great-grandmother when she died when I was, like, I don't know, 12 or something.
Sure.
A like a
Yes.
13-inch Sony Trinitron. It was
Yes.
so cool because it was color,
It was color. Yeah. Right.
but that TV back then, I think cost like $350
Right. Which was a
or
huge.
yeah, and I remember all my friends getting, like Super Nintendo, and those were about $350.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, and so now you think 13-inch crappy TV, crappy picture that you had to sit 5 feet from to see anything.
Right. Watch Mario.
Now for a tiny fraction of that cost, I've got a 55-inch 4K monitor sitting in front of me.
Yep.
So that deflation plus, obviously they're playing all kinds of games. Like it used to be they used steak as the as the
Right.
measure of the meat, and then it
Yeah.
was, "Oh, we'll do roasts for the expense," and then
Yeah.
now it's
We'll do
ground
ground
beef.
beef. Like, you
So we're not
cheating. That's
yeah,
not comparable.
and then they stopped including, what is it? Food and housing in inflation numbers.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
2, like, absolutely mandatory things, but,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, some politician can go, "I fixed it. Inflation's better because we don't inc."
We edited the numbers and see, look, they're better.
Yeah.
We made them up, that's beside the point.
Kinda like the employment numbers, if we actually believed what they told us when they come out, we'd be at, like, 500% inflation because they tell you it's, like, this high when it comes out, and then, like, a week later, they adjust it way down,
Like, oh, yeah, no,
and
it's
so the
actually
news ran with this, and, um, yeah. Yeah, the games that are being played, you can't even find, M2 the actual M2 or M1 money supply information anymore. It's
oh, sure. Yeah.
nobody officially tracks it. So, or at least that's public facing.
Yeah, right. Which is a perfect example of a system that has no real regulation. And when it runs amok,
Exactly.
what we got here?
30
Oh,
years of computer store IT. It was
dude, that's
awesome
a
getting into
long time to be
electronics.
in tech. 30
Yeah.
years computer store IT. I did 18 years in a technical field, and that was a long time. But 30 years, bro. I can imagine it would feel amazing to get out.
Yeah.
Especially watching the market now. I mean, with like all the RAM stuff, like, so I've got this stack of, RAM cards here. I was like, oh, this is garbage. I swapped these out a year ago. They're actually worth a whole bunch of money now because the whole RAM shortage. I was like, oh, well,
Mhm.
shoot, I'm gonna sell them on eBay.
Yeah, I didn't know about it, and I was hopping on Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, "Oh, I got 32 gigs. I'll go up to 64.
Yeah,
Maybe it'll
right.
help with my video editing." And it's like,
What's
DDR4,
going
that
on?
was like
Yeah.
almost nothing a year ago, and now
Yep.
it's 4 times the price.
Yes.
And,
And video cards are even worse.
yeah, because I was like, I've got a I'm sure nobody in the chat care or watching this cares, but I've got a 980, GTX 980, and I doing 4K video editing, it doesn't
Takes a no.
yeah,
It's
doesn't
just
have
like,
enough RAM. So, yeah, it chugs. And so I was looking, I'm like, why are video cards so expensive? I thought we were done with this cryptocurrency thing, but apparently it's
no,
AI
they're
now.
they're bringing back the 30 series, the 3060. They're like, oh well, this isn't applicable to AI, so we'll bring back the 3060. But they're not. But it's not going to be cheaper than it was
No.
originally. Like, this is old tech. What do you mean? Like, I'm still running that 30 series. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong
yeah.
with them.
No.
If that's what you're selling when you're supposed to be 3 series forward from that.
Oh,
So
dude, Rob, I feel you, bro. Like, overhead that running my store, I'm blessed to have limited my overhead because my shop is physically on my property. Overhead is yeah. I feel you.
yeah, that's why I run my businesses the way I do. Have
Yeah.
it limits my overhead pretty significantly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But if you're carrying physical product or having to hire people, um, that becomes a different story.
Yep. And insurance. Oh, insurance sucks. As soon as so my ATF did I tell you my I have my ATF interview next Tuesday. So hopefully soon I'll
Cool.
have my firearms license. But as soon
Congrats.
as I do that, my insurance goes through the roof.
Mhm.
Like, the second I talk about guns, it's like, oh no, that's gonna be like $500 a month extra. Boom. Just
Wow.
I'm gonna have to flow a lot of guns through there to make to just to justify it, much less make money on it.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot.
It is.
So, yeah. All right. Well, man, I think we've exhausted the, limit access before system collapse. I think
Right.
we've hit that one pretty hard. Um, my next thought was designing in feedback loops. So
Well, when you
these
can
are
identify, that there is excess,
mhm,
and then yeah, you can figure out, it's like, okay, well, what do we do about it? How do we identify what's, because it can, like on several other times we've talked about, where it can actually become a solution to a different problem.
right. Yeah, one of my examples that just makes it really easy, hopefully, for people to understand is, um, When you install an HVAC system, an air conditioner, some of them get installed in attics.
Mhm.
When that happens, one of the more recent regulations that's been enforced is so you have a condensate drain, meaning when the HVAC system runs, you get condensate or water, and you
Yep.
have a typical pipe that puts that outside somewhere. They've started regulating that there be a second pipe that's a little bit higher up that's an overflow, and that goes
Oh,
out and drips right above a window. So that way
um,
what happens is
you
if
can
you're
see it?
in, you can see the dripping, and so if you know that it's dripping, you know that there's a problem.
Sure. Okay. I get the idea, at least.
Yeah. So hopefully that, kind of lays the groundwork for this idea of, building in feedback loops so that when something's going wrong with the system, we know before it becomes catastrophic.
Sure, sure.
So, generally speaking, after the fact fixes for big issues is really going to cost us a lot. Or,
Yeah, well, what's the adage? Something's worth a pound to cure.
yeah, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
That's the one. Yes. And
Yep.
and so, coming from, as a biomedical engineer, like our my entire job was predicated on it's cheaper to maintain this than to replace or fix this on, at the last minute. So, that was our justification to exist. So, yeah, no, totally get
Mhm.
that.
And part of this is not necessarily always building the systems with that in it, but
Sure.
knowing what those signs are.
Yeah, right, yeah, so we were working on sterilizers, and we would look for the symptoms of a leak or of, bad pressure transducers or whatever. It's like, "Okay, we have wet packs coming out." Well, okay, well, that means that we have, this pressure at this stage in this, and it's not venting at that point so that it's not drying out at this point, and we can work it backwards, and we're like, "Okay, cool. When we see this, then." And we would
Mhm.
write this all up so that in the future, we could say, "Hey, it's doing this," and we go back to the documentation, go, "Ah, that."
Yep. Another one that you mentioned this before, and I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna build this into every water system I put
Oh,
together now, but is the concept of pressure gauges on either side of
of
a
the filter element?
filter. So, for people to understand, imagine my microphone is a filter element in a water system, and the water is running this way through the filter and out that way. If you put a pressure gauge here, if when this filter starts to get clogged up, the pressure on this side is going to be a lot higher than the pressure on this side. And as you get to learn, what means your line is clogged or your filter is clogged,
Mhm.
what pressure differential that is, now whenever you see it, you can go, you turn on a faucet, you go over and look, and if your pressure differential is, I don't know, 15 psi,
Time to
it's
change your
time to
filter.
change the filter. So
Yep.
really simple, straightforward, low tech solution to give you that feedback, early on before it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah, right. Ooh, Rob had a question about your HVAC. So what about the drip tray that holds water before the evap and overflow? Odd for attic installs.
Um, Not sure I understand the question quite,
Can you
but
reword that, Rob?
yeah. So the there's usually a secondary overflow pipe.
So I'm
Exactly.
like the whole bottom of the HVAC would then have to fill up with condensate for it to hit that second drain line. Am I thinking about that correctly?
Yeah. So there's two parts to this in an attic, depending on where it's installed.
Yeah.
In an attic, you're going to have a catch pan
Yeah.
which may
Right.
have a shut-off switch built into it.
Just a
Um,
contact where it hits water and goes, no.
yeah, it's a little float switch.
Perfect. Yeah.
Um, but above that, you should have your HVAC system, and there's 2 holes at the condensate drain, so one's slightly higher than the other. So you have your first drain and your second drain, or you could have one drain, a like a warning or shut off switch, and then you're gonna have your pan below that if something overflows, it catches there.
Ah,
Um, and so one of those the secondary pipe, however it's set up, is then piped out over a window so you can see it dripping.
So it's, yeah, dripping in front of you. So they're like, hey, there's a problem here. Unless, it's
Right.
raining and then you don't notice, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the exact regulation on what's required, specifically in each place is it generally pretty consistent. If some places adopted a code or a regulation or whatever, it's pretty consistent, but it can
Sure.
vary from area to area a little bit.
Makes sense. Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, Tennessee's different than Arizona, for instance.
Right. Yep, exactly. So,
Yes.
anyways, I hope that answers your question, Rob. But yeah, it's just a matter of the point really was more that there is an overflow or secondary drain line that
It
indicates
gives you
when
that
there's an issue.
feedback.
Yep. Um, is there anything else, Jared, that you see as like a good feedback or could give it as an
I
example of how to
I was gonna say
design it in?
I love that you have, donkey for flock protection because so when we first moved here, we had a donkey and a horse. Like a wild Mustang. That's what it was. I loved that donkey, and it was the greatest alarm system ever. Like that donkey was phenomenal.
Hmm.
They are
Well, and
they're great.
they integrate well too, right? Because
Yeah.
if you've got cattle or sheep or something, well, cattle really don't need
No, but
a
yeah,
protection
sheep,
animal, but
some
yeah,
goats, some smaller
sheep or
stuff.
goats or whatever, and you've got, let's say, a livestock guardian dog. Well, that dog doesn't eat grass.
Right.
And so now you've added in complexity to your system and you've got to
Yeah. That's a whole secondary
provide,
system that you have to supply for.
yep. And maybe that's you grow out rabbits, maybe it's you bring in kibble. Um, Sheep will go nuts for dog kibble. So that can be a problem in and of itself.
Oh, uh, that's funny.
Um, Donkeys are interesting though, because so they do eat grass, which is obviously going to be really helpful. Um, because you don't have to give them an extra food source. I've also heard of donkeys getting confused about babies and thinking that they're invaders or just not
Oh,
liking them.
oh,
And so some donkeys, not all, but some will attack, the young, the lambs or
okay,
whatever it is. So it's just something you have to keep in mind because they can,
sure.
I mean, donkeys can grab a coyote by the neck and shake it around and break its neck. Um, so a lamb is not going to be a challenge for it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh,
There's obviously, so as far as feedback, we live in a high tech age. There's some high tech solutions.
sure.
Um, there's one I actually really like, and I did a whole video on it. So if people want to look at my channel, it's I think the most recent full video I did. But it's a product called YoLink, and they use LoRa, which is a long range radio frequency or technology.
Yeah,
And so these systems can work up to a quarter mile away and a quarter mile in either direction from the main hub.
that's a long way.
Yeah. So one of my uses for this was I set up a water system where there's tanks at the top and a pump down low at the far side and they're far side of the property from each other. Sorry, tanks, yeah, pump and well system over here.
Okay,
And we fill the tank so we can use it passively back through that line. Sometimes that well goes dry, and so we just have a storage system for it.
gravity
Well,
battery.
yeah, one of the issues that we had is if you turn on the pump here, then you have to watch the tanks to make sure they don't overflow because you're
Ah,
using the same line gravity
yes,
fed to feed back.
right.
So I put a float switch up at the top that's battery powered, and it just looks to see when it gets to the top. When it does get to the top,
Goes, hey,
shuts off.
shut it off.
Yeah, it sends a signal to a little controller on the pump and says, turn off.
Right on.
And uh, I hope to put a float switch of the same variety in with the um, pump to make sure it doesn't burn out from running out of water.
Sure.
Um, and I can have it do things like send me notifications. So I could have it send me a notification when the tank finishes filling, or a notification when the water gets too low, so that I know why the pump isn't running. Um, or One of the other examples I gave with a system like this is you can put a motion detector on a gate on the far side of your property
Right.
and have it turn on lights on the other side of your property. So, or, all the lights, all the exterior lights on your property. So you get a visual indication that somebody has just crossed a boundary they're not supposed to.
Nice. I
So
like it.
I could go on for hours about that, but the idea is we're creating another system that gives us a feedback for something that we need to know about.
Right.
It
Right.
gives us an indication of some variety. Or it self-regulates. In the case of the pump,
Yeah. Yeah, you
water
don't have to
gets
fuss
high
with
enough,
that.
I don't even have to worry about it. It regulates itself, which is part of the principle is apply self-regulation,
Mhm.
and accept feedback. Um, so one of the things I wanted to talk about is small corrections early.
Mhm.
So we mentioned, favor plant animal behaviors that you want. And this is kind of the same idea, but it's a little bit like the butterfly effect. You make a small correction early,
Yeah.
rather than letting something go. Um, if I plant an orchard and just leave it and don't deal with the weeds, don't do anything that I should, I'm going to come back to very badly damaged or dead trees.
Sure.
So favoring those trees over the weeds, over the vines that want to choke them out, um, and making those small corrections early reduces my work and the need for intervention further down the road.
Sure. I mean, it'd be like the same as monitoring the oil level in your vehicle. I mean, if you don't do that and it incrementally, bleeding out, replacing an engine's a big deal. Whereas, tightening up a bolt that's weeping just a little bit is a pretty insignificant, like a small change.
Yeah. Yeah. You notice a little oil leak under your car. A couple 100 miles later, it could be too low oil and you lose oil pressure. But
Right.
yeah. Yep.
Well, like,
No, it's
so
good point.
when we had the Volvo, it was leaking in the turbo housing. And so we only were losing oil under load. So when it was sitting, there was no dripping oil. We checked the exhaust, there's no oil. It was only when it was spooling up the turbo that it would actually burn any oil. It was a really, it's like I kept checking. I was like, we're low on oil. Why are we low on oil? I don't see evidence anywhere. It's
Right.
dry. It was under load.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to troubleshoot that stuff. So one of the other things that I think Holmgren really got at with this principle is that he talked about using ethics. So I think
Yeah.
we talked about all these principles in one episode and just kind of hit the highlights.
Yeah.
And in that we talked about the ethics that he laid forward and that the ethics of permaculture in general. Um, and so I believe it was what care of earth, care of people, and return of surplus. I'm
Sounds about
blanking.
right.
Um,
Been a while.
and we talked about how those sound kind of, I don't know, kind of commie a little bit, but
A little hippy dippy.
the reality is when you start digging into what was meant by them, because they were just boiled down ethics, um, you can't care for others without caring for your own family first.
Mhm. I
Caring for
mean,
yourself
it's
and
the
for
airplane when the masks fall. you
right,
you take care of you so that you can take care of it. I had that same conversation with a customer today. It's like, if you're dead, you're not going to be any good to anybody around you.
exactly. Yep. And so those ethics of permaculture were kind of being referenced in this, in that um, there's times when markets in and of themselves and technology don't self-regulate.
Yeah. No.
And so being able to then impose ethics, and this is true for wherever you're coming from ethically. I mean, from my point of view as a Christian, I have ethical constraints.
Mhm.
One of those is that I've been commanded to be a steward of the things that are mine,
Yeah.
including my property, And so the destruction of my property to get, I don't know, some couple bushels of corn is unethical.
Yeah,
So the ethics really give us a framework to self-limit, to regulate when we should be. And
absolutely.
if we don't self-regulate, if we don't accept the feedback that we're seeing, we're ignoring the ethics, whether it's a specific religious ethic or the ethics that are laid out by Holmgren and Mollison,
Right.
whom I don't think either of them were or are Christian, but their ethics do give a certain appropriate moral restraint.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, because you're right. It's, it does ultimately, and I think, oh, I can't say it's universal, but it is definitely beyond just Christianity that we feel a need for good stewardship, taking care of the world around us, because we've only got one of those and we really want to live in it well.
Right. Yeah, and we wanna leave something better for our children than we had.
Yes. I mean, that
If
was
you
the
don't, you're not a good man.
guy sitting under the tree thing. But how's that go?
Oh, I'm gonna butcher it, but
Okay.
the measure of a society is its willingness for old men to plant trees whose shade they will never sit under.
Yeah. That.
Mhm.
That's the ethic. It's like, no, I'm going to take care of this world. I'm going to provide as good opportunity for the next generation as I possibly can.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
not consumeristic by nature. That is quite the opposite, in fact.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think our consumerism really at its core is um, it's a poverty mindset. It's, "I need the thing now because
Right.
it'll make me feel better," rather than, "What is the right choice for 7 generations down the line?"
Hmm.
For my great, great, great grandchildren that I'll never meet. Am I willing to
Right.
make a sacrifice now for my own life? Or, do I need the next dopamine hit?
And yes, yeah, unfortunately. And it's become so cheap to acquire those things that dopamine has become a true motive force in our
Mhm.
society. Is we just need that next fix. It's, doom scrolling. It's Amazon next day delivery. It's inherent into all of it, and it's very detrimental.
Jared, have you ever read or are you at least aware of the book, Brave New World?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know the do you know much of the backstory on that?
I don't.
Okay. It's really interesting. So Aldous Huxley, who wrote it,
Right.
was a one of the fairly prominent people in his family. His entire family were very devoted eugenicists.
Oh,
And he wrote it in the 30s, I think 36, but I'm
yeah,
sure
something about that.
somebody
Yeah.
will correct me. Um, anyways, you look at 1984 written, as a warning to us, right?
Yeah.
As a here's what could come. A Brave New World, if people read it, this is
32.
fascinating.
Yeah.
It's worth reading with this one understanding is that the man who is called the controller in the book
Hmm.
was Aldous Huxley. Like, he wrote himself what he desired to be his role into the book.
Oh.
And once you understand that it's not a warning, it's what he and his family and all the eugenicists were envisioning for the future.
Oh.
If you have the tiniest bit of pattern recognition, which obviously you do.
Yikes.
Yeah, so think of this. Um, they had these classes, like people were raised in test tubes.
Yeah.
They were taught to despise the concept of family,
Right.
and they were raised to a specific class.
Right.
And they were basically told like there was things that designated them and showed them as being part of that class, but then they were raised to be extremely proud of that class they were in. So, I'm not trying to denigrate anybody here, but look at you know, the blue collar worker who now wears a bright yellow shirt and they
Mm,
kind of wear it everywhere. Like, I'm super hardworking, which great ethic. I like it.
r-
But you don't realize who you're working for or what you're working under. Right. And so they had these classes of people who they taught to think they were what they had and what they were doing, even though it was serving someone else,
wow.
was the best thing ever. And then hypersexualization of children was a big theme in the book.
Oh,
Um, it's it's fascinating, but yeah,
wow.
the destruction of the family. There's a drug in the book they call soma,
Mm,
and so soma basically everybody it could be a combination of like SSRIs and dopamine hits. Like if you combine those two, that's what soma is.
sure.
Um, just fascinating when you understand that this guy was writing this as what the kind of world dominating people of the time were thinking,
Right.
disguised as a science fiction book.
Right. Right.
So, um,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, you mentioned 1984. I mean, like, then there's Fahrenheit 451, The Giver.
mhm,
Yeah, there's several of those that were not exactly covert illusions as to what they were endeavoring to achieve.
yeah. Well, yeah, and you see like the double speak and things from 1984. You see how that's all playing out.
Just flat out
Um,
rewriting history.
mhm, yep,
Mhm.
absolutely. Getting people like always having a war. It didn't have to be a real war. It was just always
Yeah.
having a war
Yep.
that people were getting behind. So very interesting how those things have played out.
It is. It is.
So
Yeah.
um let's see. I think I, I'm going to read one of the quotes because I think some of these
Yeah.
quotes are pretty cool. I put some at the end that are related to this from
Yep.
interesting thinkers.
Yeah.
One of those thinkers who I'm fascinated by is Buckminster Fuller. I think
Yeah.
he was a true genius and a really good guy, from what I can tell.
Mm.
Um, he had several really interesting quotes in his patent for the geodesic dome.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. So very very creative guy. Um, One thing that he said, and that's kind of related to what we're talking about, is you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
we've talked about things like, parallel economies,
Yeah.
community. Um, we're doing this on YouTube because it's the tool we have,
Right.
but the real tool that makes this obsolete is community gatherings,
Yep.
mag groups, real people doing real things together. So
Indeed.
I don't know, people in the chat, people watching, what do you think of um, what's a what's a model that makes what we're doing now obsolete? How could we obsolete some of the systems of control that we live under at the moment? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I know, right? There are so many systems of control. I mean, really, they're just layered on top of each other. That's why
Yeah.
I was thinking about that Buckminster quote and kind of trying to see it from the negative side of how they've engineered issues to enact their desired systems. They've like you create the problem that your solution that you have the solution for, and that's really actually truly what you wanted to do was just implement your solution.
They call that the Hegelian dialect, problem,
Yeah,
reaction, solution.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to create the problem, and hey, we have a solution for that.
Yeah. Look, we've got something that'll cure what ails you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or the Patriot Act. It's like no, we want to observe more, so let's make sure that we can do that.
Right.
Oh,
And that's the thing with laws. is just about every law you ever see. Whatever the law says, it's usually the exact opposite.
Right?
It should be called the Treason Act, but
Seriously.
um,
Is oh, Vic missed our question.
oh, the question was what um, well, I read the quote from Buckminster Fuller where he suggested that you build a new model that makes the old model obsolete rather than trying to fight the existing model. And what are your what are your suggestions for new models that would obsolete the models of control that we function under now? So that was my question. Um,
Yeah, because I mean, it really comes down to like, yeah, which model control are we? Is it the healthcare industry? Is it
Mhm.
our current monetary system? Is it, take your pick. And yeah, like you said, getting involved in a mag. That's a great way to completely undermine all of that.
Mhm.
Like,
Yep,
no,
mutual assistance group where you
yes, oh yeah,
help each other out. Yeah.
yes,
Bill Mollison had a great quote, and it just happens to be one that I threw in here that I think answers the question that I wasn't meaning to ask for this quote. But um, Bill Mollison said, "The greatest change we need to make is from consumption to production, even if on a small scale in our own gardens."
mm,
Now,
yep,
to me, that starts to solve multiple issues when we're moving from production or consumption to production,
oh yeah,
right? Because the World Economic Forum wants you to own nothing
oh
but be
nothing,
happy.
yeah, right,
So, in other words, be entirely a consumer and
mhm,
not a producer at all.
yep,
Only a producer in that you're a battery for them, I suppose. But
sounds like the Matrix.
yeah, but when it's small scale, grow your own garden, that starts to break all of these systems, obsolete all of the systems. Because if I'm growing my own garden, I'm healthier because I'm in the soil,
Yep,
I'm touching the earth, I'm eating better food, I'm aware of where my food came from, I'm aware of what it takes. So my mind is more clear. I'm putting effort into something that keeps me from things like social media or whatever else that might cause uh, dissociative disorders and all kinds of weird psychosis and
yep,
things.
right,
And so now I'm breaking the big pharma and big healthcare, but also now I need less of the chem ag stuff, the super cheap beef or the chemical sprayed peppers or whatever that I was getting from the store before.
yep,
And the further I can make little changes on a small scale for myself, and the more I can help other people do the same thing, the more we start to break those systems, and they hit that kind of like in the what was it, the Universe 25,
yeah,
where the healthcare system is just uh, totally destroying our finances, totally destroying our health.
right,
It's the death care system that just keeps you alive on drugs, but unhealthy, unhappy, and poor. And so the simplicity of planting a garden, producing your own things, and moving more towards that. Um, on top of that, I value something that I made a lot more than something that I bought.
yes,
Yeah, I haven't done this, but just for an example, if I went out to my woods and cut down a tree and found a nice limb and turned that into a wooden spoon, I'm probably going to be more careful about how I use that than the $2 supposedly bamboo spoon that I bought at Walmart,
right,
right?
sure.
Um, and it's probably gonna be a lot nicer and a lot better, and maybe it's even gonna be handed down for generations instead of this thing that's gonna delaminate after a month of use, and then
Mm.
I go buy another one for $2.
Yeah, let's bring back, heirloom stuff. I mean, I saw my mom's in the chat. I remember one of the things that she loved to do whenever one of our, relatives passed away is she would go to their kitchen and get a serving spoon. That was her thing. She just liked because then every time we had Thanksgiving, every time we had a Christmas, we'd bust out those serving spoons for all of the different dishes. It's like, oh, that was Grandpa Joe's. Oh, that's Grandma Jeannie's. and we
Mhm.
had, and it was a good story, and we got to think about them, and they got to be there as part of our family gathering, even though they've been gone for years.
That's really cool. I love that. And, as I'm thinking from one side of how do I do things that make, make 7 generations down the line better,
Mhm.
um, hopefully my light's flickering.
I saw that.
Hopefully, they're on the other side of that, looking 7 generations back and going, "Wow, we're standing on shoulders of somebody who cared,"
Right.
and hopefully they care too. The, um the Bible says, and I don't remember where, but it says that the sins of the fathers are visited upon
For the
7
third and fourth
generations.
generations, yeah.
The 3rd and 4th, I think in one place it says 7. Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry, I'm confusing myself.
It's okay.
To the 3rd and 4th generation.
Yeah.
Um, but I believe it says that the righteous, that is handed down for 1,000 generations.
Right.
And, um, we each have the choice to break that, right? We can break that for our family before
Mhm.
it's handed down 4 generations, or, we could break the blessing that was handed down to us from prior generations. But the reality is that one is much more powerful than the other.
Yes.
That God has a redemptive plan for everyone, and that He's set that in place in such a way that the laws of nature break it.
Mhm.
Um, but we have the opportunity, just like in everything else, humans are the most destructive or most beneficial and regenerative source
Right.
on the earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
And the next is beavers.
I was gonna say, yeah, light is always more powerful than darkness.
Mhm.
Just is.
Yeah. Darkness is just the absence of something.
Yep.
So,
Oh, looks like Rob has another question. What we got here? Back to what you said, relying on products you buy, but you would rather make them. However, the system for that remote control is Chinese owned, but running in the US. You see where it starts and ends.
yep. Yeah, the system I mentioned, the Yolink system, absolutely. It's Chinese owned.
Most
Um,
everything
yep.
is,
And I
unfortunately.
I don't use them to rely on. I use them more as, it's handy if you have it, you use it
It's a
while you
tool.
got it. It's a tool, and just like any tool, recognize what it is.
Yep.
Um,
Like the
I
Baofeng radios that I sell. It's like, yep,
Yeah,
they're
they're
Chinese.
Chinese, but you get to communicate with them. They have a benefit to you that's beyond the unfortunate negative of what they
Right.
are.
If I
It
had a good alternative that was American made, absolutely. If I could get, and that is coming. Like we are getting more and more industry moved back stateside,
Yeah,
better products. Fantastic. I'm here
yep.
for it.
Well, and does the Yolink, even if it was made in the United States, does it have a backdoor to the NSA? Probably.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about that. They're like, but the Chinese government's going to know. I'm like, I'm more concerned about the US government knowing
Right.
they're more diabolical.
Yeah. So on that note, the uh the way that I deal with that, and Jared's actually more knowledgeable on this end than I am. So he'll tell you if I'm blowing hot air on this one. But what I've done, because I refuse to put smart things, especially Wi-Fi
Oh,
connected smart things,
yeah.
on my system,
Right.
is I put a secondary firewall behind my existing router firewall,
Sure.
and I've direct connected the Yolink hub, which then speaks to the devices outside of Wi-Fi. Those devices
Completely
don't have
isolated.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So I've isolated it from seeing anything on my network. I've isolated it from being given a direct location, because if you set it up via Wi-Fi, your phone uses your location
Right.
and then gives it to the device, which then knows exactly where it is. And then on top of that, I run it's called a Pi hole. And so a lot of the stuff that gets sent to data brokers from these smart devices, the Pi hole actually knows the IP addresses. So if anything requests out to anything other than the server that controls the device,
Mm-hmm.
then it gets shut down. So that's
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
how I use it. Um, I don't recommend smart devices if you don't know how to set up your network to be a little protected at least.
Yeah, because yeah, if you just go in and just enable, it's going to punch a hole straight through your network, and yeah, everything's available. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's bad because we
Well,
have the same issue in healthcare. Was medical devices are horrible. They are
really bad.
horrible.
Like Windows XP on a
Yes.
yeah. The other thing to note on that is, let's say I was using a Wi-Fi switch or smart plug or something, and I had 10 of them plugged in throughout my property.
Mhm.
Those almost always have Bluetooth built into them. LE, low energy Bluetooth,
Yep.
and lower energy Bluetooth will report where you are. So even if it
Like, oh, there's something
like,
to connect. Even if you're not actually connected to it, it's like, hey, it's there.
yep.
It
And
reports.
so with that, anybody who owned those devices, whatever company, now can literally watch where you walk on your property because you're pinging off of those devices. So yeah, big word of warning with smart items.
Oh yeah. Well, even an access point, you can have a physiological map using
Mhm.
access points. They can actually see, you know, backwards through the Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
wild.
because they have waveforming in the Wi-Fi,
Yep.
and so now they can determine,
Yeah,
not only
beamforming is
can they
good. Yeah,
beam it towards you, now the device knows where you are too. So we're constantly being tracked, we're constantly being surveilled. You do what you can to minimize it.
that's it.
But
We do what
another
we
strategy in that is something I call salting your data. So, um,
we're just gonna tunnel through to Pakistan. We'll just bounce out over there. It'll
that's
be fine.
right. Right, just put it on all my smart stuff on the Tor network.
That's right.
Actually, that's what I do for my server. I use Start9, which everything that tunnels out is through Tor.
Sure.
So, um, what was I gonna say? It was salting your data.
Oh yeah.
Easiest example of this is, um, I didn't want Facebook, and they know at this point who I am and what I do because I, now announce it on YouTube and such.
Yep.
Um, but for the longest time, Facebook thought I was a extreme left wingist who wanted to basically, like, I was a big fan of Planned Parenthood and,
Oh
you
my.
know, like,
You did a good job.
yeah, take all the stuff. And so it was just done through,
Their
liking
algorithm had
certain
no
posts.
idea what to do with you.
Yeah. That's Facebook still doesn't. It's confused because I post all kinds of stuff that has to do with, like, taking care of your land, which would traditionally be kind of left wing. I don't know why, but um, I don't know why it's a political issue at all for that matter.
Right.
But
They try to
um,
pigeonhole.
yeah, and I wouldn't consider myself on a political scale right wing.
Mm,
So I think there's, that creates confusion because it's like, personally, on a personal level, on a like what I personally believe, sure, I'm probably very conservative, generally speaking, right?
sure.
On a political level, I have a really different take that algorithms really have a hard
Sure.
time putting the
Yep.
finger on. So,
Yep. Yeah,
but
it's
salt your data, you know,
yeah,
sign up for newsletters you don't actually want and then just block it on your email. Do
that's funny.
put in fake birthdays on anything that requires it, or even things that don't.
Yes. Yeah, I had that conversation with my wife and kids. They were trying to pick usernames, and my daughter, picked one, and I'm like, Honey, okay, hold on. You're giving them way entirely too much information." She's like,
Mhm.
"What do you mean?" I'm like, "You just gave them your birth month and year."
Right.
Did? I'm like, "You didn't even realize you just did." Yeah, don't.
Mhm.
And the same thing, yeah, it's like, we don't know. So the default, like, if it requires a year, it's like, okay, we'll go with a year, but it's gonna be January 1st.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
giving you month or day. No.
I'm like January 1st, 1980, or
Yeah,
January 1st, 1998, or
we'll
as
get
long as it's over 18 years behind us,
yeah, exactly. It's like,
good.
they don't need to know.
Maybe 21 in some cases.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I guess if I'm renting a car, they're going to kind of
24,
require
yeah,
it,
right.
but for the most part, if it's Gmail or whatever you're signing up for, give them fake data.
Yeah, there's no reason. I'm already on so many watch lists. I can't. I don't. I don't want to know. I don't.
Right. But yeah, I mean, salting your data by doing things that most people would think like, why would I do that? And I'm not kidding, signing up for, newsletters that disagree with what you think, because actually it's good to get another perspective anyways.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, actually, I'd do that anyway, just because I want to know. I want to know what other people think and see and how they view all the stuff, whether I agree with it or not.
Mhm. Yeah, before 2016, I used to actually listen to about half and half, gag me, NPR
Yep.
and talk radio. They were both awful, right?
Yep.
2016 came and they just blew up so bad, that I can't do it anymore, but
Right.
that was my, like, "Oh, I'll get both sides of this," both sides
Yes.
of the spectrum and figure out which one each side is not telling me about.
They're both different sides of the same coin. They're all liars.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and that was kind of it used before 2016, you could kind of come up with you could figure out what was going on because you get enough from each
Right.
side of the story. Now, they're they're pushing towards the same aim, but claiming that each other are, like, evil,
Yes.
and truth is nowhere to be found in the middle or anywhere around the edges. It's it's almost both of them are so entirely incorrect and wrong that it's my
Somebody
brain
said
does not.
something. I'm trying. I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. It was something like, if you can't disagree with your side and you can't find anything to agree with the other side, you've fallen victim to propaganda, something like that. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, no, that tracks. Yeah,
Yep.
like, I disagree with everybody. I know I agree with some of the aspects of a lot of people, but yeah, yeah, I disagree with a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, from from the right wing, I'm like, well, what you talk about, you don't actually do it, but what you talk about for, you know, fiscal responsibility, that
Right?
sounds good.
Yeah,
Let's audit the Fed.
let's actually
Let's
do that though. Yeah,
yeah, let's
not just talk about it.
not just balance the budget, let's cut the budget. Um, Not actually interested, not at least people at the top. But on the left, it's like, well, what you talk about, caring about people, taking care of people, I love all those things.
Yeah,
I don't love having my money stolen for somebody else to do it and or claim they're doing it. I wanna do that myself,
I was say
right?
I don't see that as a top down solution. I see that as bottom up,
Mhm.
but I agree that it needs to be done.
Right. Yeah, and so it's like, I can see both sides of these arguments, and the reality is the what they're claiming is not what they're doing. And it's generally not the people like you and I, somebody who really has no influence, no position,
Yeah,
they probably genuinely believe the argument that's being made, not knowing that it's complete hot air and they're writing the Patriot Act to create a police state, is
yeah, right.
like or a surveillance state. So or whatever it is, they use a word that sounds good. I want to be a patriot.
So
I want to
justified. Yeah,
like my country.
right. Yeah, like how could you stand against the Patriot Act?
Exactly.
Like, have you read it?
Have we lost our whole audience yet?
Yeah, no, right. Hey, we got 4 in here. We're good.
Yep. Cool, man. Um, let's see. I gotta look at my notes and see if there's anything else that we should have touched on that we
We
didn't.
kind of we rabbit holed really, really hard.
Maybe I'll do this. I'm gonna read David Holmgren's quote that I put in here. It
Yeah,
was specifically when he was writing about this principle 4. And what he said is the implementation of self-regulation and feedback is the most important principle for long-term sustainability,
yeah,
which, when we talked about seventh generation thinking, um, we need to know that our systems are put in place and that we're living in a way, at least more and more as we can, in a way that that can sustain or get better over time.
Mhm.
And if we don't
Which
have
is
self-regulation, it
inherent
won't.
to the statement because it's going to be an incremental solution because we can't do these drastic changes. We need to do these small incremental evaluations and adjustments.
Yep, absolutely. And the we talked about observe and interact a few weeks back, and
Mhm.
you know that's kind of a sister principle to this, in that
Yep.
here we're accepting feedback. In the previous one, we're observing and just kind of an iterative trying. And here we're looking at the feedback and we're going, okay, that's a bad idea.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
we need to tweak it a little bit. It's like,
Mhm.
well, yeah,
Yep.
aim
Yeah.
small,
Pallet
miss small.
garden doesn't work. So, well, I think I've kind of hit what I wanted to.
This is good.
Yeah, I think this is good. It's fun getting on tangents. I
Oh,
like
yes.
that. Um, Jared, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or any thoughts you had to wrap up here?
I think we hit everything that I was fun. Yeah, that is a good growth without restraints becomes extraction. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jared's looking at the notes. We've got a shared talk about surveillance. We've got a
Yeah.
shared Google document that we can look to highlight and see each other from a that from a distance. But
Well, and I when I was thinking about that, I was thinking it almost um like a postmortem. Like when you see a system fail, when you see something fall apart, you can evaluate and go look and like where did it really fall apart and drive back to those points of basically of unregulated whatever. That's inevitably the motive force that's if it didn't start it, it definitely finished it.
mhm, yep, and I think one of those things is just unmitigated growth.
Yeah,
Um,
which is functionally is cancer. I mean,
mhm,
in a system like a healthy body, when you have the unmitigated growth, that's a cancer. It
right,
needs to be excised.
yeah. What is so there's a term for the regulation or the number of times your body can reproduce a cell. You
Mm,
know, for those who are really ridiculously nerdy, it's called the Hayflick limit,
yeah.
and cancers essentially ignore the Hayflick limit.
Nope. Yeah. Right.
Um,
They
and
just
there's
keep going and going and going.
fascinating theories, like basically tumors, physical tumors look exactly like placentas,
Mm,
and placentas grow just like a tumor until the baby hits a certain, uh, basically a certain place where it has enzymes that appear to stop the growth or inhibit the growth of the placenta.
right.
So very interesting stuff like that. But yeah, there's people working on senescence, and if people want to look into this further, the person who uncovered this, I think in the early '90s,
Mm,
was oh, what's his name? No, it'll come to me in a minute, but I'll explain what I'm getting at with it. But there's so senescence is how the body basically degrades over time.
hmm
And as some of our cells start hitting that Hayflick limit where they can't keep reproducing, your body stops reproducing certain cells. And over time, that basically appears as aging or senescence. And so there's a group of scientists on one side who are siloed, thinking we could just change, somehow change the cellular structure so it could keep going,
sure.
we could fix aging.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a group of scientists on the other side going, man, if we could just tell cells to stop growing, we could fix cancer.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to each other, that God's put in this balance between the two, to ideally keep cancer from running amok, and
Right.
ideally, you know, keep us from aging too quickly.
Well,
Um,
and it's actually happened. Are you familiar with the HeLa cells?
mm,
Look it up. HeLa. So there was a gal, and she ironically died of cancer, but her cells still exist to this day. They
mhm,
reproduce indefinitely. There are more cells in existence of hers today than when she was alive because they continues to populate them because they're perfect for testing and evaluating.
I didn't
So
know the name of that,
the
but,
helicell, yeah.
um, yeah, that's actually been so this is kind of disturbing, but much of the cellular structure that they use for a lot of traditional vaccines, and I think they use them in the more recent
Mhm.
mRNA, are that type of cell.
Yep.
And this is where the whole aborted fetuses comes from, because I believe it was in the 60s or 70s, somebody discovered those cell lines from, um, aborted children. So and they're used to this day for development. So,
Right.
you know, another rabbit hole, but, it's true, and you're actually seeing in those cells that have reproduced over and over again that, um, there is degradation of the DNA, and there's
Mm.
issues with those being potentially carcinogenic.
Mm.
So all kinds of interesting rabbit holes. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
if growth isn't curtailed, you it every single time it produces really problematic outcomes.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
so it's not just a trope that some, tree huggers are putting out there.
Oh,
There's a real need to make sure that what the systems that we're putting together and the way that we're living our lives doesn't expand in a balloon so fast that it becomes destructive.
mhm.
That's what an explosion is, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we see it in popularity. We see people, explode on the scene, they become massive, and then they end up, burning out and having drug addiction problems and whatever. We see, yeah, anytime where something just comes out of nowhere, becomes massive, it usually fails in a
Yep.
catastrophic way.
Win the lottery, it
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
Most what I don't remember what the percentage, it was huge. Like most of they end up like destitute and or in jail or dead.
It's something ridiculous like 95%.
Yeah. It's like, oh
That
no, thank you.
that's not exact, but it's something like
It,
that where
yeah, it's
they end up
significant. Yeah.
worse off than they were within 10 years, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, man, you after all those really, uplifting thoughts,
Right.
do you wanna tell us what you do and we'll wrap up?
Sure, sure. All right, let me get this going. All right, so I am Jared Wilson. I own Resilient Living. So you can go and find our website, resilientliving.com. You can follow us on social media. I have a small store in Middle Tennessee. We are right on Highway 111 between Sparta and Spencer. So if like you're in Chattanooga area, head north. If you're Cookville, head south. Um, we sell freeze dried foods and knives. We sell camping gear, hopefully soon guns. um, we got all kinds of stuff. I got a whole smattering of books on every topic from, doing stuff like Ryan's got, gardening and livestock to survival, bushcraft. Yeah, I've got it. And we trying to organize what's this next one going to be? This next one's going to be land navigation. I've got finally got a good instructor. So I'm going to have a land navigation class. So, we try to provide opportunities for the community to gain experience, education, and equipment. That's kind of the three E's that I've really kind of fixated on is those three things, and then hopefully in the not too distant future, I'm gonna learn enough about radios that I'll teach a radio class.
Awesome. In the meantime, let me know and I can get you connected with somebody like Evan Dixon from Radio Made Easy if you need.
Sweet.
Um, yeah. So what I would say with Jared's shop, if
Yeah.
you've got a dude who's you can't get gifts for, you don't know how to, go to Jared's shop. You will
Went to
find so
Jared's.
many things.
Oh, I should do
Yeah.
a campaign on that. That'd be great.
Meg's totally screwed with you. Just
I should went to
now
Jared.
you've got
Oh,
a shop
did
with
you
all
see?
this stuff.
Let me show you the picture. I made her a stainless steel Celtic Trinity thing, a necklace for Christmas. Turned out really good.
Awesome.
So I make
That's
jewelry
great.
too. Apparently, never tried that
Yeah.
before. It was the first.
Now you can get custom jewelry from Jared.
That's right.
So my name's Ryan Steve. I'm the homestead consultant, which is very on the nose, but hey, I got the website. So, um, Yeah, I help people set up homesteads. I help people think through complex issues and figure out how to be more efficient, not waste time and money, all those kinds of things. So if you need help with that, just look me up on the homesteadconsultant.com.
Sweet. Well, as always, sir, it was a pleasure and I had a good time and we learned lots of good stuff.
Yeah, same here. Thanks everybody in the chat for keeping up with us. We had lots of great comments from Rob and Rocky Pines and everybody else, Jared's
Yeah.
mom.
Yep.
So thank you all for being here tonight.
All righty, guys. Later.
Have a good night.